where should we start tonight with some questions? Here we go. Question number 1 from somewhere out there.
Hi, my name is Mike, and my question is, I've never seen a man have an orgasm and not ejaculate. Why is it that some women, when they have an orgasm, ejaculate or squirt, and others don't? How come they all don't? Because it seems that all men do.
And before we get to answering that, I just want to say on behalf of the Mystery Box Show, we might amend some of the vocabulary in that call to maybe not so much say men, but people with penises or people with vulvas instead of women, because those two terms don't always Venn diagram themselves. Is that how Venn diagram works? But with that being said, I think there's still a lot to unpack with that question. So why is it that penis havers always ejaculate and not all vulva havers ejaculate with orgasm? Or is that a faulty premise? Panelists.
It's a faulty premise.
We all jump in at once. It is a faulty premise.
But I personally have experience with penis havers that have orgasms without ejaculating. For whatever reason, sometimes deliberately and sometimes just how things go that time. And that, not all women squirt because, not all women even have orgasms, as has been documented. So it's just a matter of different things and different activities causing different sensations for different people.
Yeah, the word all is just the problem in sex in general. There's no such thing as all people doing anything. So that's just one thing right off the bat. Second thing off the bat, just to speak from a sex education perspective, the ejaculation on a vulva body versus ejaculation on a penis body are completely different biological mechanisms. And they come from completely different parts of the body. And we could get into the anatomy all day, but basically, from sexual reproduction's perspective, ejaculation is what the penis owner does to help facilitate reproduction, whereas squirting or ejaculation from a vulva bearer doesn't actually have a purpose in terms of sexual reproduction from a purely biological, maintaining the line of species perspective. So they're just different. So most penis owners will find themselves, when they experiment with orgasm, when they have orgasms, they ejaculate naturally because that is what their bodies have evolved to do from a sexual reproduction perspective. Whereas for vulva owners, that's not something that our bodies have evolved to do. So some of us do naturally, some of us work really hard to learn how, some of us work really hard to learn how to not do it. But basically everyone's body is different. And so these are just, you're kind of approaching sexuality from a plumbing perspective. And you just have to understand that different parts have different biological functions outside of just sexual pleasure.
And to add to that, also to be aware that how orgasm is reached can cause different responses in the body. Allison brought the idea that for vulva owners, there's not a reproductive purpose there. It's also the notion of what type of orgasm is happening, right? Is this something that, for folks who don't know, the clitoris is a complex system, right? It's the clitoral shaft, and you usually see that most people think it's just that little tiny, nub at the end that's the clitoris. There's actually a whole structure. There's a shaft. There's two different sets of, there's bulbs and wings that come down underneath, that wrap around underneath the labia. Oh, Allison, do you have a model? I'm sure you have a model. Of course. Because I have a vulva, but you're fantastic.
There you go.
Right. So I love it. So that's the actual full clitoral structure. And so if somebody is a vulva bearer, is it working on, right? Is it working with the bulb and doing that kind of stuff? Is it hitting the outside of clitoris, underside of the clitoris, or is it doing work where you're inside the vaginal cavity and going into what gets called the G spot? But that's, in my opinion, slightly problematic because that names a part of the vulvic body off an old dead German dude. And I have some feelings about that. But where are we affecting that body is going to cause different physiological sensations and different body responses. So, I mean, and so like that whole, I think you summed it up well, and we could talk about physiology all day, but like, which I kind of want to. A lot of other questions.
We're nerds. We're nerds.
Can I ask, so I wonder if this is too simplistic, but is there a corollary that is non-sexual in the body? When you say that all bodies are different, some of them respond differently than the others. I know people who hiccup differently than others. You know, the sound is different. Some people sneeze like this, and some people you can hear 3 blocks away, and that's just how their body works, how their lungs work, or whatever. I wonder if that's a fair comparison or perhaps not, but it feels like anatomically we're all different. We just have different responses to different stimulus, sexual or not. No?
Well, and even with an individual person, like I sometimes squirt when I have an orgasm, depending on what's happening and what kind of stimulation I'm getting, and sometimes I don't. It's not a question of whether it's a possibility or if it happens every time. It just matters what's going on and who's doing what and how I'm feeling and how things respond. It's not also a goal-oriented thing. Like, I don't go like, today I must squirt. It's because I find that really intimidating and exhausting but to have goal-oriented sex. But so it's not even just the variance in different people. Even for a single person, it can vary depending on so many factors. I mean, not just your physical stimulation, but your mental state, how you interact with the person that you're doing things with. All of that can affect how your body responds.
Yeah. And I think it's important just to simplify the answer. These are all amazing answers. I'm just looking all this up. I think it's important to note, and I think Allison touched on this when she said like the purpose of the ejaculants are different, is to say like to assume that all ejaculation is to assume that the penis ejaculation and the vulva ejaculation is the same thing. It's kind of saying like this person is sort of comparing the two, saying, well, shouldn't it be the same because it's all the same? But it's not the same to begin with. And I think that's that's kind of the simple way that I see it, is that they're two different things, even though we call them both ejaculation.